Hi, everybody. You're tuned into KEXP. My name is Darek Mazzone. I'm a DJ at KEXP. We are a listener-powered radio station broadcasting 24/7 with music from all over the world, and that is my focus. Is literally music from all over the world. Now more than ever, we need this type of music to keep us connected and power us through these insanely hard times we're all going through. And right now, thank you for joining us. This is live on KEXP at home, and this is my home. Today, I'm honored to have an amazing guitarist from Cape Town, South Africa. His name is Darek Gripper. I've been a fan of his work for a long time. Hey, Derek.
Hey, Derek.
We first met in Budapest at a great conference called WOMEX, which is a place where musicians from all over the world get together and perform for booking agents and journalists and DJs such as myself. And Derek kind of blew me away. He sat down. We were doing a recording at a little studio there, right on the Danube, the Blue Danube. And I was there with my dear friend John Kurtzer, and Derek sat down and started playing. What I closed my eyes was like, this is Kora music. This is stunning. And now we chatted for a little bit. We met a couple of times later, and just the most recent meeting was in New York City at a great Turkish restaurant with some dear friends. And I had Derek come through KXP a little while ago, and he did an impromptu session. And the music is just beautiful and sublime, and it feels like it's from another time and another place, and it just has this wonderful mix of all of these elements that make you feel like I'm going to remember this for a long time. So I've been following Derek for quite a bit, and I was super excited that he has a brand new record out called A Year of Swimming, and he can share a few songs with us here. Derek, what was the inspiration for the for the record?
The record was just me carrying on exploring different music. You know, I'd finished two records that had focused on Kora music, and I started thinking about. Actually, it all started meeting Salif Keita in Bamako, and thinking, and we played together, and I thought, you know, I really should know some of this guy's songs because he's the first musician from West Africa I ever heard, and I heard him live. Probably the first ever musician from outside of South Africa that I ever heard live. So I learned two of his pieces, and we met up again in Swaziland at a festival called Bushfire and played. And that started this rolling of looking at singers and being either inspired by the work of singers, Fanta Sako from Mali, Madosini from South Africa, Chiwaniso from Zimbabwe, Baba Mal from Senegal, writing songs or arranging their music for solo guitar.
Okay, let's step back for a second. So, how did you find these artists? I know you're in South Africa, but Africa is gigantic, and the prevalence of Western music, rock, hip hop, whatever, you know, that I love. We all do, but it's hard to get, you know, sounds from Mali, from Uganda, from Algeria, from anywhere, from Senegal to work their way through the noise of Western music. How did you find it?
Yeah, I mean, Cape Town, South Africa, where I am, is probably the last place you're going to find out about West African music and a lot of African music. And definitely during the late 1980s, early 90s, there was very little, you know, that I was hearing. But Salif came to Cape Town in 1996, and I was there at a theater, a movie theater, one of these, you know, those huge old movie theaters where, you know, you could probably have 1,000 people in there. And there was one actually down the road from where I'm living now, which is called the Three Arts, and it used to be a whites only movie theater, and across the tracks, like, I don't know, even half a kilometer away, there was another one called the Lakshorama, which was the non-whites one, you know, and this was up until probably late 80s. I don't know. No, actually, the Three Arts probably closed sometime early in the 80s. But that was my experience of going in there for the first time and hearing 14-piece Malian band. And I don't know if that's what sort of planted the seed, but a number of years later, when I discovered Tumani Diabate's Kora music and, you know, started being inspired by his music and then arranging his music, it sort of started this whole direction.
Yeah, but like a full-on artistic direction, which is inspiring. Can we hear a song?
Yeah. So this is Lam Turo, which is it's a griot song. It's been renamed by Baba Mal and Mansour Sek, and it's off their first album, which was lost in an archive in Senegal. And when they were looking for the original tapes of their actual first album, which they couldn't find, they found this amazing album. I don't have it here. It's called Jam Lili, and this is one of the tracks off it. So you can hear Baba Mal's accompaniment. And then you hear the solo guitar of Mansour Sek.
Beautiful work.
There you are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the new album is A Year of Swimming, and you have a funny story about that, actually involving a year of swimming. Let's go into that.
The story of the title?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the story of the title is, I know I've spent a little bit of time in America, and I know you all have basements, and in American basements, I've seen all sorts of things, washing machines, bicycles, surfing equipment. I had a basement in my old house. It was a very big one, and you could open up this trapdoor, and I kept a Canadian poet down there for some time. And he actually got me into cold water swimming. I was having a particularly tricky time, and that's when you go and open up the basement and let out the poet for inspiration. So he suggested I go swimming, and we have the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean in Cape Town. And the Indian Ocean is pretty warm, 17 degrees Celsius around there usually. I don't know what that would be for you guys. But the Atlantic is quite a bit colder. It's, it can be between 8, 10, 12 degrees. So this was a huge shock to the system for me, but I slowly got used to it. And I did a year of cold water swimming where I pretty much went in every day. And towards the end of the year, ended up in Slovenia, in a glacial lake, and in the ocean with pieces of ice floating in Maine, and then in a creek in Canada. In January. And it was only after I recorded this record that I realized that all the music, either the compositions or the arrangements, had been from this time, that this was the sort of central feature of that time. So that's how it got the name.
Perfect. So you committed to swimming as you committed to this music.
Yeah, I
think is
did. I
great.
mean, now we can't swim. I mean, I don't know how insane your lockdown is, but we aren't really allowed to leave the house except for essential things, which involves we don't have exercise or anything like that. That has to happen inside. So, swimming is now a poignant and distant memory.
Yeah, yeah. We're in the same situation, and and this KXP live at home delivery is in reaction to that, where this particular music specifically, when I played your record, I was like, this is needed because music has an intrinsic healing uh, properties, and Kora music and your interpretation of that I found through my listeners, on my show, is like, this is really touching them in a way that maybe other genres wouldn't, because this is my own interpretation, but I find it very hopeful. Like there's a depth to it, but it manifests itself in a sense of hope. It doesn't feel depressing or doom, which is fine. We all went through a metal phase, but it feels like you're going through something. There's a complexity to it. It manifests itself in a part of the world that has had difficulty throughout. I think this music is important, and especially now because it seems to be able to translate itself all over the world. We've got amazing live listeners right now and viewers, and thank you one and all. Big shout out to Jim and everybody else. But there's something in this music that feels like it's the right time for it, and the reaction that the audience is having to that, it feels really, really powerful. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, on that front, what we've been doing, I've been connecting with guitarists and beginner guitarists, and guitarists who wanted to learn this music 2 or 3 times a day, and we've been having sessions learning this music, which has actually been a really wonderful way to spend. So the only adults I see in the day are these people in all these far-flung places, from the US to Canada to Europe to the UK, because the UK is not in Europe, and India, Australia, and South Africans, and we're all kind of in the same situation. And we talk about, how's your thing? What are you allowed to do? But we've been playing, 1 hour of solid playing, just really simple, things, and that's been and it's a testament to this music that it's something that you can do and share in this way. That it's, anyone could arrive at these things and play, and it's been a great coping thing and connecting thing, and just totally crazy to be speaking to people all over who are experiencing this. I've never experienced this before.
Yeah. Let's hear another song. Let's talk some more.
Yeah, so I can play you a song by Salif. This is called Ananaming, and this would be Salif's guitar part. And then there's this kind of calabash bass accompaniment, like. it's Anonyming by Salif Keita.
By Salif Keita. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Oh, we're getting some police siren action out here.
I got a chance to
So
see
quiet.
I got a chance to see Salif in Australia for a little second before everything kind of fell.
Oh, you saw him now on his
Yeah.
tour now?
Yeah,
Oh, I was there as well. I wasn't at the concert. That was in Adelaide, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I played 2 nights before, I think, and I was in Melbourne during that concert.
I know. It was my first time in Australia. And it felt like it was a different time. You know, like people were still getting together and concerts were happening. You know, it felt okay. And then this thing just bubbled and bubbled and got bigger and bigger. And I remember being in Australia where all these artists, because we're planning to go to a concert series in New Zealand, and New Zealand stopped, you know, letting people in. So artists from Korea and other places where, how do we actually figure this out? Because in this age, having artists such as Salif Keita, such as artists such as yourself, Yufaka Ture, and others play all over the world and share this, that to me is one of the crowning jewels of our age. It's like we can actually gather and share this. Where in the past, you know, it was really difficult to do that. We're doing this now via technology, and it feels like music is a vital way to share ideas and also share good wishes. You know, as a musician, you're performing something that, like, you know, it's a it's like a little blessing. It's like, here, I'm blessing the stage. I'm blessing this interaction by presenting you this beautiful music from someplace that's really far away. That, you know, 100 years ago you would not have had a chance to experience it or hear it at all. Now we can, and pandemic is here, and now that's stopped for a while. But we're still kind of connecting together and trying to make this work. And I'm gonna ask you to speculate a little bit because you've traveled, you know, in the waters and outside, and you've been on these stages. What do you see possibly happening once we're, I wouldn't say through this, but maybe absorb this and are going to be dealing with this um, as maybe the new normal from the perspective of a traveling touring musician?
I mean, it's super interesting to see, you know, what is going to happen. You know, how are we going to respond to this? It's like you've been fasting. You know, like that can make a big change, and or you can just, wow, you know, go crazy and eat everything. You know, and I mean, I was doing a 16 city town tour in Australia, and by the end, I was so into playing, and I was just loving it. It was just flying. You know, the last few concerts were just the best things, and I was like, wow, this is what I love doing. And touring, you know, can be like that, and other times it can be like, whoa, what am I doing? Where am I? What's going on? You know, and so I was really on a high, and I arrived home and I did a concert on the Sunday night after I arrived. I don't even know what date it is anymore. So, but it was the night that they announced the South African social distancing beginning. It was before we had a full lockdown, and everything changed. You know, within a few hours, I was playing a concert, and next thing I was driving home, and that was a month ago, and I haven't left since. And my US tour was cancelled, so I'm supposed to be in the US right now, actually. And then my Canadian tour was cancelled. I was supposed to be there next month, and then the European tour is cancelled, and so I know that everything is really up in the air now for everybody, you know, touring, because nobody knows how long this is going to go for, and also how things are going to move later. And I imagine that I'm not going to have the freedom of movement that I've had for quite a long time. I can quite imagine, you know, with the climate in America at the moment, that it's going to be very difficult for people from outside, you know, to get in. I mean, it's already been a huge thing for Malian artists over the last few years with our friend in office. Where, you know, a lot of I've had to step in for people like Baseku Kuyate, who was part of this Muslim visa ban, where suddenly you're about to get on the plane and then you have a 6-month vetting. So that was already happening, you know, and now every nation has a wonderful reason to, you know, to limit people coming in. And so I wonder what's going to happen. And for myself, I've just decided that I am going to carry on doing what I'm doing within the limitations, and that's kind of what guitar playing is all about. You don't have a band, you don't have a bassist. So you use the limitations of this very simple little box that was designed hundreds of years ago, and you see what you can do with that. And so I just feel like I'm expanding that thing, arranging these songs. You've got, 2 or 3 music parts, and you've got a vocal part. And the whole fun of putting it onto something like this is to see what you can do with as little. And I have to say that the last month has been an incredibly inspiring, creative time. I've been more busy in my own house than I normally am, because 95% of touring is queuing in airports. I'm actually thinking of putting like a airport waiting lounge somewhere in my house, just so I can go and sit and do nothing. Like have like a flight delayed sign, and just sit there and not be allowed to move for a few hours, because it's quite insane. There's just so much happening. It's almost like all of our mental energy is now being placed in the online space. But the first thing I did was do a live stream concert and played to about 500 people in 3 time zones. I did 3 concerts, 6 hours in one day. And it felt like I was back on the road. I was right here. We did a whole sound thing, so it sounded really beautiful. We had a few cameras, and I had someone running the whole thing from Melbourne, actually, remotely through my computer. And after the concerts, we met up on Zoom with the audience, and like you would normally backstage or in front or whatever. And I really felt like that was, for me, the same experience of flow in front of an audience, that focus of you've got 2 hours, you're there and you're playing, and you're playing what comes. So the discipline and the playing carried on. And so I feel that we can hopefully carry on in some way, obviously playing more locally again. One of my big frustrations has been that I play, 200 concerts a year outside of my own country and 3 in it. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think. Of course, it's sad as well. There were a lot of wonderful collaborations, and the amount of work that people put into running festivals is insane. If I had to run festivals, there would be no festivals, because it's insane what they do. It's really, and people don't realize. They come to the gig and they go, wow, that was great, and they leave afterwards. And these guys work the whole year to make this happen. And to think of, just in the live, don't even go into, construction work and factory work and here in South Africa, but, in the live music scene, it's crazy to think of how many people have invested time and money into the next year of live music, which is now all, in the balance. So
true.
I'm super interested.
Dealing with
we're living in interesting times, and I'm very interested to see what's going to happen. And I'm just super happy that I can carry on being a musician online, both through these hangouts we're doing, learning, and I'm using Patreon as well, which has really come to the, so I've managed to find a way to carry on making a living, even though I've just lost a year of work. Yeah.
That's good to hear. And that's a good story to share, that you're surviving, and maybe even through this change, maybe thriving.
Well, there's a lot of thriving that you can explore deeper, because when you're on tour, you kind of, you come home for 2 weeks and you're kind of in, you're in cryogenesis, whatever. You're like frozen, and you're like just, and then you go again, and then you're just going. And so you can lose an entire year of your life. So now I'm really getting to, to delve deeper in. And so, yeah. Perfect.
Let's hear another song.
Another song. Well, I want to play you a song by Fanta Sako. Fanta Sako is a beautiful singer. If you can find her music and listen to her, she's magnificent. Don't listen on Spotify, because there's only one recording on Spotify and it's warped. But on YouTube, Fanta Sako, Sako, she has the most beautiful voice. One record, 1971, released by the Malian government's anthology series. That blue record at the back there is actually from there, and this is an arrangement of hers, and then halfway through it switches into a song of mine called Fanta and Felix.
is beautiful. Thank you, Derek.
Sure, thank you.
That's really, really great. Hey, just a big shout out to Sean, Dio, ASK, Chadnia, Leslie, Ophelia, Farouk, Mark, Niemand. All of these great viewers are checking us out right now. Thank you. Excuse me. If you have any questions for Derek, please in the live comments ask me if you can. So we're going through some funky times. This is a transformation, and we just talked about how technology is kind of circumventing the border issues for artists. So, in a perfect world, let's speculate, like we did over dinner. Let's speculate. Pasakoyo Kiate, Habib, Koita, all of these great artists, they can be here right now in this space if they had the technology to actually do this. But can you kind of like future trip with me and go like, hey, wait, maybe there's an opportunity. Could we set something up like this in Bamako and Dakar, where a concert like this could actually happen, where we're in a virtual space and sharing that? Could we?
I really hope that we can, because I know that Malian musicians were struggling already before this. There was so many changes from 2016, where all the troubles that happened 2015, 2016 really shut down tourism. So that destroyed a whole lot of live music for them, and so they were making money out of touring and they were making money from weddings, but anything outside of that was gone. The festival in the desert up north. Then the next wave was the Trump presidency and the change in the immigration laws and the cracking down of Mali. So that created a huge less work, and it also meant that just simple things like agents didn't want to work with Malian musicians anymore, because you could book a whole tour of 25 dates and suddenly your artist is not there, so it became a liability. Mm-hmm. And now it's just next level. So I don't know how people are surviving, musicians are surviving in Mali. I mean, it's a terrifying thing. And if there could be a way that could be set up in some central location, because I'm sure most people don't have the bandwidth and the technology to be able to do this from their homes. But if there was some way that could be set up centrally, where people could tune in and actually see what's going on in music, because that place is crazy. I was there during a full, like, it was, there were police in the streets. If we went, I mean, army in the streets. If we went out of the city, we went with an armed guard around us. It was full lockdown, and it was some of the most funky, incredible. I mean, the place was, if that was Mali in a state of emergency, I don't even want to know what happens there when it's not, because it was vibing. It was going crazy. There was a festival there down the river. There was a festival over there. There was one over there. There were guys playing there. There were weddings happening. It was just like,
wow.
So there's incredible things happening there. And if there was a way for people to tune in and pay, that would be an incredible thing. So somebody needs to get in there, pop up a satellite dish and a few microphones and a camera, and absolutely get that going, Derek.
Perfect. Thank you. So I got a question from a viewer. This is Emmy. What's the most difficult, challenging song for you to play, Derek Ripper?
The difficult, challenging song, I don't play. I try to avoid difficult and challenging. The most difficult and challenging thing for me originally was when I heard Tumani's kora music. I don't know how many of you listeners know Tumani Diabate, one of the greatest instrumental musicians probably ever to come out of in the recorded era, to come out of the African continent. And he made a record when he was 21 or 22 called Kaira. And the playing on that is just, you don't even, if you hear that as a musician, you just go, fine, music's sorted, and you go do something else. It's a bit like hearing Indian classical music as well. You're like, oh my gosh, I've missed the boat. And that's what it felt like when I heard Tumani. And so that was a very long time where I really wanted to be involved in a music like that, and found it completely impossible on guitar. And the album One Night on Earth that I made in 2012 was when I finally managed to overcome this hurdle and play pieces like Jarabi and Kaira in Tumani's arrangements on the guitar. And I'd say that was my biggest challenge. Probably very close to that is playing with Indian classical musicians. I've done a few tours with Debashish Bhattacharya, and the training of someone like Debashish is just incredible. And you're coming with like a phrase book, trying to have a philosophical conversation with somebody who's just who's got the complete works of Nietzsche at their fingertips. That, I'd say, is up there, and it's a challenge that I still would like to meet. I think appropriately
Okay.
meet, or yeah.
So it's a long journey, and does it feel like you're just at the beginning of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now I've got some time to learn. I think there's. I saw a beautiful concert yesterday. It was recently the centenary of Ravi Shankar's birth, and Ali Akbar Khan, the School of Music, did a live stream of a 1980s concert, a Jagalbandi, a duet between Ravi Shankar and Ali Akbar Khan. And I watched the concert yesterday. I took the day off. I had to have my computer fixed, so I was off the road. I was grounded for the day, and I watched this concert, and that really inspired me, and reminded me of a whole side of music, this real intense dropping into a world and an ocean, which is so much a part of the early Indian music scene, and absolutely something that I experienced in Mali as well, where music is just, you'd get back from the festival, you were playing at 2 a.m, and there'd be 5 people playing under the trees making tea, and next thing you were playing until 6 a.m. It was just this continuous, and you'd wake up 9 a.m. and the music would start again. And so that was inspiring to remember that that's possible, because sometimes touring life is not like that. You play an hour and a half or 2 hours a day on a stage, and the rest of the time you don't know who you are or what music is.
Yeah, I bet. Can we hear another song, Derek?
Sure. Well, since you asked about it, I suppose I could play you this song Tubaka. I think this is one of the most beautiful songs, and it was the first song that I transcribed from Tumani's music, and it was a surprise for me, because to be able to play this music on guitar was super exciting. And when I finally did learn it, I was told later that it was actually originally a guitar piece, and kora players had transcribed it. So I was sort of unknowingly completing a circle there. Waka.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Derek.
Derek Gripper, this was awesome. Thank you
Yeah, I
for.
wanted to say as well, sorry, we were talking about touring and that, and I think another thing that has been hugely valuable for me is playing in places where people are totally into music, and that is a huge loss because I mean, you can say a lot of things about America, but there's an amazing love and like appreciation, and there's something that I'd never experienced when I started touring in the US and in other places as well. And that is, and I think that has probably hasn't hit yet, of like that loss of being able to share music in a place where there's just this like, you know, openness to music, and it's this tradition of really listening. And yeah, but I mean that we're gonna have to find online as well, I suppose. But
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get through this, and artists such as yourselves and others will come and play and share this beautiful music, which is so vital and needed more than ever. Derek Gripper, thank you so much for joining. This is
thanks,
awesome. There's a
Derek.
Bandcamp link. The new record is A Year of Swimming, and we're going to do this again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have more live streams coming up, so be sure to follow us and subscribe to our channel. Stay up to date. We are keeping the music discovery coming for you through our broadcast, our mobile app, in studio sessions, stories behind music, and so much more. You can find us at kexp.org. You can also check out my last show, Wopop, 2 weeks of it on our site and on your mobile app. Last week, it was all about, it's Tuesday actually, it was all about healing music from all over the world. Big shout out to Derek Ripper for being available in Cape Town, South Africa. Justin, Jim, Aaron, Cheryl, and everybody at the amazing KEXP crew to keep this going. We're going to get through this. You're not alone. We are here for you. Keep the music flowing. Keep the music of the world flowing. Thank you.